Memory is a landscape as vast and complex as the Nebraska plains. For Jake Miller, the seeds of escape had been planted long before he understood the language of dreams. His earliest memories were of watching his father work. Thomas Miller moving through the wheat fields like a force of nature, hands calloused, back bent with a strength that seemed to defy human limitation. But even as a small child, Jake saw something different in himself. While other farm kids played with toy tractors, he would sit for hours drawing waves from magazines, creating entire oceanic worlds on scraps of paper. The Miller family farm was more than just land. It was a living history, established in 1892 by Jake's great-grandfather, who had arrived from Germany with nothing but hope and two sturdy hands. The farm had survived economic depressions, dust storms, world wars. Each generation had added something: a barn, an irrigation system, a set of values as deep-rooted as the wheat they cultivated. Thomas Miller was a man shaped by this history. Tall and lean, with skin weathered by decades of sun and wind, he embodied a particular type of Midwestern masculinity, stoic, principled, defined by work and duty. His conversations were sparse, measured. Every word carried the weight of generations of farmers who had survived by being pragmatic, by understanding that sentiment was a luxury the land could not afford. Elizabeth Miller offered a different kind of strength. Descended from Irish immigrants who had found their way to Nebraska in the late 1800s, she brought a softer perspective. Where Thomas saw the farm as a battleground to be conquered, Elizabeth saw it as a living entity to be understood, respected, nurtured. Jake was their unexpected child, born after they had nearly given up hope of having children. He arrived like a miracle, a final blessing after years of trying. Perhaps this late arrival explained the difference in him, the restlessness that seemed to pulse beneath his skin. His childhood was a careful balance. By day, he worked alongside his father, learning the intricate dance of farming, understanding soil composition, predicting weather patterns, repairing complex machinery. By night, he would retreat to his room, surrounded by surfing magazines that seemed to come from another planet. Sarah Rodriguez became his first true ally. The daughter of Mexican immigrants who had found their place in this small farming community, she understood what it meant to be different, to dream beyond immediate boundaries. Her parents had left everything behind in search of a better life, and she saw in Jake that same compelling spirit of transformation. The cigar box became more than just a savings container. It was a physical manifestation of possibility. Hidden beneath a loose floorboard, it contained not just money, but hope. Each bill was carefully folded, each coin positioned with precision. Earnings from extra work, fixing tractors, helping neighbors, selling produce at the local market. Some bills had been there for years, waiting for their moment. Preparation was Jake's form of prayer. The old Ford F-150 truck became his canvas of transformation. Every evening, after his father had gone to bed, Jake would work on it, replacing spark plugs, checking the transmission, ensuring every mechanical detail was perfect. What looked like routine maintenance was actually a carefully constructed pathway to freedom. The night before his departure was thick with unspoken emotions. Jake moved through the farmhouse with a deliberate calmness. His mother was baking apple pie, her signature dish that always filled the house with a warmth that seemed to transcend mere food. His father sat in the living room, reviewing crop reports, a ritual as consistent as the changing seasons. Sarah helped him plan the final details: maps, contacts, potential routes. She understood this was more than a personal journey. It was a narrative waiting to be told. Her journalistic instincts saw the larger story, the universal tale of a young man breaking free from predetermined expectations. The letter he wrote was both an explanation and a promise. Mom and Dad, what I'm about to do isn't a rejection of our life, our farm, our family. It's a continuation of everything you've taught me. Hard work, persistence, believing in something larger than yourself. These are the lessons of this farm, and I'm taking them with me. I'm not leaving. I'm exploring. I'm growing. And I promise everything I become because of you. I love you both more than you can understand. Jake. Dawn arrived with a Midwestern precision, soft light spreading across wheat fields that seemed to breathe with their own rhythm. Jake's preparation was methodical, a carefully packed duffel bag. The surfboard he'd saved for months to buy, wrapped carefully. Supplies, maps, the truck loaded with a quiet determination. Sarah met him at the edge of town, her own truck waiting. An old compass, a gift from her grandfather, was her parting present. Brass surface etched with a quote from Jack London. "You can't wait for inspiration. You have to go after it with a club." Their goodbye was brief. No tears, no dramatic declarations. Just a shared understanding that some journeys can only be made alone. As Jake drove away, the farm, his entire known world, receded in the rearview mirror. Wheat fields transformed from constraint to memory. Each mile brought new horizons. Flat landscapes gave way to subtle changes. Prairie became rolling hills. Hills became distant mountains. The world was opening up. By nightfall, hundreds of miles from everything he knew, Jake found himself in a generic motel room. Beige walls, worn carpet, a television that looked like a relic from another era. But to him, it represented something profound, the first true moment of absolute independence. He pulled out his sketchbook and began to draw. Not wheat fields, not familiar landscapes, but waves. Massive, impossible waves that represented everything he was leaving behind and everything he was about to become. Jake Miller was no longer just a farm boy from Nebraska. He was a traveler, a dreamer, a future surfer. The journey to the ocean had begun.